going to go ahead and get started with this live training. We appreciate you all being here and taking the time to learn a little bit more about Microsoft 365 Copilot. And today we'll be focused on content creation with Copilot. So again, thank you for taking the time. I'm sure it's a busy week showing up on a Tuesday to learn a little bit with us here at Planet Technologies. So a little bit about myself before we begin. My name is Christian Sorensen. I am a Evolve 365 learning strategist from Planet Technologies, and I come to you all the way from the West Coast. I'm actually here in the Pacific Northwest, just outside Seattle. Been with the Evolve team here at Planet for a few years, and it's my pleasure to be here helping you all on this educational journey that you're on. I am a big believer in growth mindset, and growth mindset teaches us that we should seek to be learn-it-alls as opposed to know-it-alls. So I give you some credit for showing up today to learn it all a little bit with me. Now, I've had the privilege of helping many organizations roll out Copilot successfully, and I know just how overwhelming it can feel to learn a whole new workflow. I know because it's even affected my own personal workflow. So my goal today is to really simplify the process and give you some real examples that hopefully you can start using right away. So if you have any other questions, if you have questions, you can feel free to put those into the chat. We have Phil Vogel here also from Planet who can help answer those questions. I will do my best to keep an eye on the chat and answer questions as they come in. Of course, we typically will have time for Q&A after the main part of the session. Feel free to ask your questions. If we miss something, we'll be sure to come back to it during the Q&A as well. For the time being, everybody's microphones are muted by default. So if you do want to ask a question out loud later, you can raise your hand. We can grant people the ability to ask their question aloud as well when we get to the Q&A portion. So I really enjoyed the journey of myself exploring, experimenting with Copilot, and I have learned a lot. And while everything around this tool is developed to be easily accessible and we can use natural language patterns to begin, I want to discourage you from being tempted to think that it means there is no learning curve, right? Using generative AI is a completely new workflow for most of us. So from my personal experience, I'll say be patient with the process and don't be afraid to explore and try new things when you can. Reiterating, trying again, all of that is key to working with Copilot. I've learned that myself, and things are constantly changing, growing, and so having that growth mindset is helpful, especially when it comes to Copilot AI. So a high-level look at our agenda today. We'll just start with talking about what Copilot Chat is, a general overview, before we move into actually creating some content with Copilot. We'll give you some tips along the way for writing effective prompts, because prompt engineering is key to having a successful experience with any AI or any authorized tenant-contained interface. So as we think about how we communicate in general, we're going to think about communicating in a unique way with Copilot. It's really conversational. And then after that, we'll have some time for questions and answers. All right, let's jump right on in. So before we go anywhere, it's always important to talk about safety, all right? AI is very much a buzzword right now. It's almost really like a marketing term. And the generative tools that come onto the market are incredibly popular, and they are allowing us to do things like summarize lengthy documents, create new professional content for our teams or for those that we serve and support across almost every step of our existing workflows. And these tools can provide assistance, insights. They can help with rephrasing and recreating content. But I do want to emphasize how important it is that we use approved AI services, because there are lots of different options out there. And because of how many of these tools are out there, how they function, how they grow and build their knowledge, there is a real risk of unintentionally exposing personal or confidential data if we aren't being careful and if we're not using those approved AI services. And the good news is that Copilot from Microsoft 365, when you're signed in with your work credentials, it's going to help ensure data integrity, and it applies the same enterprise grade data protection that you're already used to across other Microsoft applications. So the bottom line is that there's lots of AI tools online. Not all of them protect your company's data. When you're using Copilot with your work account, you get those data protections, those enterprise data protections apply immediately. This means that your data stays inside your organization's tenant and is not used to train any AI models. Now, because you are a unique group of individuals out there for what you do, we should talk about GCC High. Now, GCC High, the Microsoft 365 environment that you are currently utilizing, has some additional security requirements that are truly specialized. This environment is intended for defense industrial base and organizations that are handling CUI, or controlled unclassified information, or any other defense-related data. It's the most secure environment Microsoft offers for M365, with zero tolerance for data exfiltration. In GCC High, Copilot itself operates inside the same US sovereign cloud boundary that already protects your CUI. And this means prompts, the responses do not leave your tenant and are not used to train public AI models. The trade-off for operating in a FedRAMP High or ITAR aligned environment is that features are introduced on a different and often later authorization cadence than commercial tenants. Um, if your organization does handle CUI, is subject to DFARS 7012, ITAR, or works with the Department of Defense, you're almost certainly in GCC High. I just want to call that out. If you're unsure, you can look for some clues. Your contracts would mention compliance with ITAR or CMMC, and your M365 tenant would be labeled as GCC High. Again, your IT or compliance team can confirm this quickly if you have questions about it. But in GCC High, all data resides in US sovereign cloud environments, and only screened US citizens manage the infrastructure. Compliance standards here are the strictest, right? That same FedRAMP High, DFARS 7012, ITAR, and CMMC. This environment ensures zero tolerance for data leaving those US boundaries and make it essential for defense and national security work. What this means for you is that features roll out a little slower than those we see in a commercial environment, or that might be advertised. So you might see, someone in your personal life using a feature in their organization, and maybe they're not in GCC High, and you're like, well, can I do that in my environment, in my work? The answer is maybe not, maybe not yet. I will say that. So let's talk about Copilot Chat. Now, we're probably all familiar with search engines, right? Search engines, you go into a search engine, whatever your preferred one may be, you type in some keywords, you get some responses, you search through, you type in keywords and you get some results. Excuse me, I'm using Copilot terminology there, but you get results, right? You scroll through the results, you go to a link in a website, you explore from there. Well, Copilot Chat goes way beyond that keyword-based search. It is actually reasoning over your question or request and responding in a conversational way. So you are encouraged to engage in a conversational style. You have an ongoing dialogue with Copilot. You can ask follow-up questions, request examples or adjustments, and then refine the output to better understand information, explore ideas, and create unique content, which we're talking about today, that fits your needs. So Copilot Chat acts like a personal work assistant for you to bounce ideas off of and then incorporate those into your workflows to speed up everyday tasks. So today we're going to focus on content creation with Copilot, but beyond creation, we have powerful capabilities to summarize large amounts of information, either from a Word document, text, data from a spreadsheet, and also provide suggestions that it can give us and insights on existing content. So we're kind of shifting away from what we, in the past have known for web searching, which it's great at, gathering information to, giving you answers when you ask it questions, but you really want to engage with it conversationally. So how can we think of Copilot in our work? Um, so Copilot as a drafting partner, you can think of them, right? You're the pilot, they're the co-pilot. So Copilot chat can help when you aren't sure where to start. Maybe you need a first draft to begin with. Maybe you need ideas or structure or variation. And again, Copilot can generate suggestions. You decide what gets used, what doesn't. Even if it suggests a prompt, you can choose to put that into the prompt box, and then you can you can delete it, you can change it, you can edit it, add to it if you want. Yeah, even if it does suggest something for you. So I'll just a quick a quick question for the audience, if you will. Do you find it harder to start from like a blank page or than it is to edit something imperfect? Like if you have something imperfect, is it harder to edit that imperfect thing, or is it harder to start from something completely from scratch? Because Copilot could help with either of those. So feel free to put your answer in the chat. Kind of curious where your heads are at with that regard. So where can you find Copilot? So where can we find Copilot? Well, there are multiple access points to get to Copilot. You can open your browser and find Copilot at office dot three or office365.us or portal.office365.us. That is the GCC high one. I see some answers in the chat too. Harder to start from scratch. I always find it harder to start from scratch too. At least if I have something to work with, I can build upon that from there. But starting from scratch is tricky. And when we think about as we talk more today about creating content, we talk about prompting, which is really just the instructions or the conversation starter or what we say to Copilot is going to be key to getting a good start, right? There's no real wrong way to prompt, and I'll probably mention that again later, but reiterating over and over again can take up time, can kind of muddy the waters a bit. So what we want to do is, start strong with a good prompt in order to build something from scratch, right? Which can be tricky. Someone else says they've started from scratch when researching information that they didn't know. Yeah. So you can find Copilot on the web via your browser. If you have the desktop app enabled, there is a desktop app. It's virtually identical to the web browser version. It's just not in a web browser window. If you have the mobile app, you can utilize it on a mobile device. And it is also integrated within Outlook, the email calendar management app from Microsoft as well. So depending on what kind of licensing you have, you may be a basic Copilot user. Um, but I think today we're going to be focused on the premium version. The premium version is really integrated with other Microsoft 365 applications. That's the biggest differentiator between the basic and the premium version. If you have a premium version, you would find it other places like other applications, like in PowerPoint or Excel. You'd be able to interact with Copilot directly in those apps. Someone also mentions in the chat, I have more trouble editing after getting stuck on an idea or way of explaining something. Yeah, that's a tough crossroads too sometimes, right? Now, all of these places that were mentioned in the chat that we're kind of talking through here, there are opportunities for Copilot to help you when you get to those points. All right, so to start chatting, right? While Copilot operates inside your sovereign tenant, you always want to follow your organization's internal guidance when you are handling CUI or any sensitive mission data in prompts. So to get started chatting with Copilot, you can ask it a simple question like, you are speaking with a colleague, right? Summarize this document. then attach a document that you want summarized. Once Copilot summarizes your document, you can then respond to Copilot based on that summary. Do you want to reformat it for different output, like talking points? Do you want a one-page summary? You can also have Copilot adjust for a different audience, like maybe one version for executives, for command, one for your colleagues, people on the same level as you, maybe. Additionally, if there are specific details summarized that you want to drill into to see further explanations, Copilot can easily dive deeper into any of those portions or tailor to your specific task or workflow. So let's go ahead and take a look at Copilot now, because we're not just going to stare at slides today. We can actually get into Copilot and prompt a bit. Now, I will call out, I am using the browser version of Copilot Chat here today. I am using a premium account, so I have the premium licensing for this one. It may look a little different than what you're using if you are a basic Copilot user. One thing I will also note, up here there is this toggle that says work or web. Not all organizations have this enabled, although it is available in the GCC High Office 365.us environment. It may not be enabled within your organization. Web grounding means that it is going out to the internet to grab answers, right? And of course, that would be within US sovereign boundaries, of course. If it's on the work toggle like this, that is meaning that it is also searching files that it has access within your organization's data. So that could be, your OneDrive, a SharePoint that you're a part of, that you are connected to, or any other data that it has been given access to within your organization. Now, you may not see that there. I'll just call that out. So just basic layout here. We have a left-hand navigation bar. We can see we are in the new chat space. We have our prompt box here where we can send messages to Copilot and start having that conversation. The plus sign here allows us to add content to this space, also agents, which we won't go as far as talking about agents today. You can also just drag and drop files in here too. You don't have to click the plus sign. If you just have them somewhere, you can grab them and drop them in. A great question, Neil. He called out, I just said work also looks within your organization, and I should have called that out. That does mean that when work is checked, it also has the option to go to the web as well. So work is kind of both of these, work and web. Web is not going to look within the work stuff. Great question. Yeah, you have some prompt suggestions down here if you're not sure where to get started. You can also browse more prompts in the prompt gallery by task, job type. Great kind of ways to get started, or jog your mind if you want to go in a certain direction. And again, if you grab any of these, it's going to pull it in here. It doesn't actually enter it in yet. You can edit this, you can change it, you can use it as kind of a prompt template, if you will. The other thing I like to call out too, as you're working with Copilot, if you find that there's prompts that are working better for you, or that you like, or that were more successful, you can actually save those prompts and then put them into your prompts in the prompt gallery. So you can have your own stash of prompts here. If there's things you're doing regularly, you can use those as a template to start that conversation. Now, keep in mind, when you start a conversation with Copilot here, it's a blank slate. So whatever you enter in initially is going to guide the direction. So whether that's a document that's there, whether it's a persona that you give it to start with, hey, I'm an auditor working on auditing this, this thing. It's going to stay within those confines of the conversation that you're having here. We'll talk about ways to go back and actually pick up where you left off with the conversation if you want. But if you ever need to take it in a new direction, or just start with a new clean slate, you can always come up here and click Start New Chat. This little green check mark is showing you that you're logged in with your account and you are getting that enterprise grade data protection. Right here, people often ask about this: auto, quick response, or think deeper. If you leave this on the automatic setting, Copilot is going to take what you input and it's going to make a determination as to how long it needs to think about this. If it's more of a complex prompt, if it's involving some sort of detail, specificity, it will choose to maybe think longer about that. If you want it to just answer quickly without thinking, quote, thinking as deeply, it's not really thinking. We'll maybe talk about more about that later. But if you want it to spend less time reasoning and working through the response, you can have it answer right away. If you want it to take longer to reason, you can choose this option for better answers. Auto is just it's automatically going to decide. So I'm going to throw a quick starter prompt in here just to showcase exactly how this works. We'll say create a quick onboarding guide for a new program analyst at a government agency. And I'll just add a second sentence here. It will be forgiving as far as if you leave like run-on sentences, even if you misspell things. It's up to you kind of how you want to format your prompts. I need it to explain general responsibilities for maintaining internal documentation quality and includes 3, promise I'm a better typer when I don't have an audience, common mistakes to avoid. Okay, so create a quick onboarding guide for a new program analyst at a government agency. I needed to explain general responsibilities for maintaining internal documentation quality and includes 3 common mistakes to avoid. So I've been relatively specific here. And again, the better input you give, the more details you give to Copilot, the better the output is going to be. And we'll get into talking about creating content, prompting, a little bit of prompt engineering after this. But it's going to take a little time to think through this, and then it's going to respond. It says, below is a quick onboarding guide for a new program analyst at a government agency focused on maintaining strong internal documentation quality. So it's kind of repeating back what we asked for it. It has searched both internal data and public resources. However, no relevant internal files, chats, or meetings surfaced. No worries. The guidance below is grounded in publicly available government program analyst role description. So it's using general knowledge to pull this together. If I had a document I wanted it to reference, specific guidelines maybe internally that we had, it could do that as well. But it's given a quick onboarding guide. It's thrown together what it could here. We have the role, the focus area, core responsibilities, maintaining clear and accurate records, ensuring compliance and consistency. It is given us references here. This is one great thing about Copilot. It's going to leave these annotations to show you what it has referenced and maybe show its sources down at the bottom. So if you want to follow up on those, which I recommend doing, you can always click on those, whether it's a document internally, whether it's something you grabbed from the web, it's going to reference those. So we can see here we've got government program analyst job description from interviewguy.com. Right, management and program analysis from careers.doi.gov, right? So Department of Interior, right? But you can follow up on these, and it's given us all of this. Now, at the end of the response, you're going to see some options here. I can copy this response. I can give some just generic feedback to Microsoft to say if I like this or didn't like it, which can be helpful in kind of guiding, how they build things in the future. And it's going to give some suggestions down here as well. Make this guide into a printable PDF, expand this into a formal orientation packet, or customize the guide for a specific agency. If I choose any of these, it's going to enter it into the prompt box. Again, I can edit this and, I choose the direction that the conversation goes in. I mentioned earlier you can save your prompts. If you want to do that, you can hover over that prompt and go to this little, what looks like a bookmark, it's save prompt. That will then go to that prompt gallery in your prompts. I can always copy things. I can edit the initial prompt and try again as well. So let's talk a little bit more about prompting, shall we? So we've seen how you can get started with Copilot, just with, quick prompt, but there's 3 easy steps to ensure that you have the optimal experience when you are prompting with Copilot. So you want to enter your prompt or instructions for what you want Copilot to create. You can be as detailed as possible in your instructions and include any source information that you want Copilot to use in its creation process. Once you get that response, like we saw, it gave us a pretty nice response. We would want to check the sources, right? Did it use the source document exclusively? Did it pull new sources? You want to validate those for accuracy and appropriateness. And then lastly, you're going to continue the conversation. What refinements would you make to the newly created content? What would make it better? You're instructing Copilot to refine the document based on the audience. And I always like to call out just a little bit about how Copilot works in general. So Copilot is built on large language models. So it gets lots of information, all sorts of words. It's all turned into data, numbers, and what is happening when you enter a prompt in, it is assigning your words, it's turning them into code and numbers. And what it's doing is it's matching up and predicting what the most likely response would be, or the most likely place to gather information from is, and then use that large language model and algorithm to extract data. It's big math is what's happening, really. So a word like joyful and happy, those would be more closely related. So it would recognize that the number assignment for those would be more closely related. So what it's good at is, predicting, mimicking styles. But if we don't give it the right information, it's not going to know where to go, or it's going to fall back to being very, the average, going towards the middle. It's averaging tendencies. So the more specific we are guiding it to zero in on those areas of its knowledge, those words that are more closely associated with things that we're trying to get to. So just a little bit on kind of how that works. And I think that's important to understand when you're thinking about how you prompt and communicate with Copilot. So when we get into actually creating content, Copilot can help you get started. Let's say you're facing a blank email message, right? Or maybe it's the end of the day on a Friday and your brain is frazzled and you're just like, I just need to get this email out. I know what needs to go in it, but I just cannot form my words today. I can't form this the way that I want to. Um, you can give Copilot, bullet points, notes, just a rough idea, and it's going to turn that into a complete draft for you. This helps improve things like clarity, tone. It can make sure that messages sound more professional or easy to understand when maybe you're not in a place to do that. But you stay in control, because Copilot is going to suggest a draft, just like we saw. It could suggest a prompt and we can put it in and then edit it the way that we want. It can suggest those drafts. We can review it, edit, personalize it, or just get rid of it before we send it off. And this is really helpful for like routine emails, quick updates, things like that. So remember, you are the pilot. You remain responsible for ensuring any generated content aligns with your program's classification and marking requirements prior to distribution. Now, what about as a writing coach? Well, Copilot can act like a writing coach. It can help you adjust how your message comes across. You can ask it to, make a message more friendly, more formal, or more persuasive, depending on your audience. Better yet, if you have a concrete example of that, use it. If you have like, hey, I love the way that this was written. I'm trying to deliver this message in this same style. It'll be really good at mimicking that. It's also useful when you're not sure how something might sound to the reader. Right? Just because you wrote it a certain way, it may come across a different way. Well, Copilot can suggest wording changes to improve your clarity, reduce ambiguity, or even soften strong language, or be more formal when it's maybe started out more casual. You, again, always review and decide what to keep. Copilot is offering those suggestions. It's not automatically changing things for you. So let's look at how it can help with communications a little bit here. We're going to go over to Outlook. So from within Outlook, we'll find Copilot a few different places. We're going to find it over here. We can jump right into the chat experience again on this left-hand side here. If I'm within the email interface here, you can see Copilot is here. We can open up the chat from here. You may find some little sparkly icons next to what looks like an email where it says summarize. I could summarize an email that was sent over. Add some more emails here. Will show up. Okay. Different ways to interact with Copilot here. But let's say I'm starting with a new email and I'm not really sure where to begin, or I need some help drafting the initial email. I can start by saying, so I'll call out here. First of all, we could jump into the Copilot chat from this window as well. We can also go into drafting our email. I can press Alt I, AI, get it? And it'll open up this little prompt box here. You can see those little sparkles next to the pen, kind of indicative of using Copilot in this space. But I could say, draft a short internal email explaining, I know I misspelled that. We'll go back to it in a second. Explaining the purpose of this updated, the purpose of our updated cyber security policy to program staff and include required next steps. We'll be forgiving again if you do have some typos in there, but we wanted to draft a short internal email explaining the purpose of our updated cybersecurity policy to program staff and include required next steps. I will say generate or hit enter. It's going to create a draft. And what you'll see here is it's drafted it. It has not put it into the email yet. Even if it did, I can still delete, rewrite, edit, add things as needed. So it says, hello team, I hope you're all having a productive day. I wanted to take a moment to share some important information regarding our newly updated cybersecurity policy. The primary goal of this update is to strengthen our digital security measures, protect sensitive data, and ensure compliance with industry standards. These enhancements are designed to keep our program safe from emerging threats and help us maintain a secure working environment. It's going to give us some next steps here to move forward. Take time to review the updated policy, which is now available on the internal portal. Yada, yada. If you have any questions or need clarification, please reach out to our IT team. Thank you for your attention and cooperation as we work together to keep our program secure, right? So this is just a draft. If I want, I could change something here. I could discard this. I could ask it to regenerate. If I say regenerate, it's just going to try it again. It's going to give me another version. And you'll notice here it now says 2 of 2. I can toggle between the different versions that have been created to see if I like one better than the other. If I want to adjust, I have some just options to just for quick single clicks without me having to prompt, make it longer, shorter, more formal, more direct, more casual. I don't know if you want to make it a poem, but that option is there. Now, what if I want to follow up? Maybe it's for a different audience. Maybe I'm kind of going in the direction I want, but I want to turn this internal procedure notification guidance into a clear FAQ, some frequently asked questions that might come up suitable for onboarding new team members. All right. Here we go. So it's generated this. And note that it did give us, this is the third of 3 options. So we asked it to change something, and it's now given us a new FAQ, right? It's quick FAQ to help new team members, right? Why do we have an updated cybersecurity policy? Where can I find the policy? So maybe where you go put in an actual link here, right? When you edit this. Let's say this is the one we wanted to go with. I can say keep. It's going to put it in the body of the email. It's not sending it off automatically. I could still go in here and change things. If I wanted to put in a link here, I could still do that. I could say link here, you know, click here to view the policy. Wow, the policy. Lots of different ways to work with this, right? So let's move somewhere else and just see how Copilot kind of maintains context and follows us to our other Copilot experiences. Since we are in, we're in Outlook here, but let's say we go back to the chat. I could go over here, scroll down a little bit on the left-hand side, and hey, look, under my chats, I could jump into this onboarding guide for program analysts. I click in there, it's going to bring that chat thread up. Wait, that's not the one I want. Try this again. That was what we were chatting about before. We should see, maybe it's not quite there yet. What should come up, and maybe we'll come back to this in a moment, is we would see our chat history. We would see even what we were chatting in Copilot in Outlook, we should see it show up in our chat history here as well. So we can pick up where we left off, even though we're not in Copilot now, or even though we're not in Outlook. If I go back to Outlook though, but it's going to pull up here. I go, okay, back to Outlook. There we go. And I open up here. Let's see if it's going to show up. This is just like a mini window into Copilot. So I can see the chat history from earlier, but the one we just had hasn't quite shown up today. In any case, let's jump back to other example of what you can do in Outlook. So we'll find an email that's come in here. And let's say I want to reply to this. Reply all. And I can say, first I'll go Alt-I. Alt-I, there we go. And I'll say create a clear, concise reply to this email asking for additional information that may pertain to me or tasks I need to complete. And we can go ahead and click generate. It's going to create that draft once again, and it'll give us that response. And we can decide to keep it, adjust, regenerate, or discard it all together. Now you'll notice when I double click here, I can find this Copilot little pen here, and I can rewrite with Copilot again. So even once it's in the email, I could still choose to rewrite from that point. All right. I'm going to open up Copilot again here. And it's going to be a little difficult for me. What I want to show is just the ability to also open up the chat and use the chat to now refer to things in context in your email. So if we wanted to reference something that was in the body of this email, in this thread, ask it questions about it, we can do that here in Outlook as well. So let's go back to Copilot. Where is it? There we go. Back to my browser. We're going to start with a new chat here. So we could have clicked this to bring us back to this clean slate here. But what I want to do now, it shows another example of how we could utilize Copilot to create some content. Let's say we had a meeting transcript and I want to write a Teams post to update the team members on what the next steps or timelines might be. So maybe people who didn't attend the meeting, we want to give them a quick update about what was taking place in that meeting. So if I go here, and I'm just going to grab a meeting transcript file that I know I have here. And again, we can drag and drop. I can find things. I can drag and drop this right here. I like that. I think it's kind of a quick and easy way to do it. You'll notice it shows the file here. It's going to tell me that because I'm uploading this from my device here, it's going to send that copy to the OneDrive. I'm fine with that. We can see it now has the file existing here, but maybe I want to write a Teams post to update team members who couldn't attend on next steps and timelines based on this meeting transcript. So it's going to take the transcript that I have in the form of this Word document. It's going to read through it, and it's going to, based on our prompt, give us a quick Teams update. So it should be pretty concise, pretty easy to just grab this, copy, paste it into a Teams chat or a channel. excuse me, a post in a channel. Considering how to create the team's post. Oftentimes, Copilot, as it's working through, it'll kind of tell you where it's at as it is reasoning through everything. It's going to think a little bit longer. Of course, it knows I have an audience. And here we go. Below is a ready to post Teams update that you can copy, paste. I translated all, if it'll let me scroll down here. Yesterday, tomorrow, today, references from the transcript into concrete dates so it's clear for everyone. Right, it even shows, the code that it broke down there. So if you are a coder, this is interesting that it has put it in code form, not in the actual. I'm gonna just reiterate here. It's a good example. Can you format this in a as a ready to copy and paste Teams post? All right, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, this is what we were looking for here. Kind of cool to see the code here, but not exactly what we were looking for. So sometimes you have to reiterate with Copilot, kind of guide it in the right direction. So the mission update, next steps, and timelines. Hi team, for those who couldn't attend, here's a quick recap. Now I could take this and I can copy the response here. Now note there is going to be a little bit of editing I need to do because it does at the end say, let me know if you want this version customized with team members, tags for channel specific formatting. I can then take this over to Teams. We'll go into one of our channels here. I could go to create a post and I could say meeting update for those who couldn't attend. And we can put this in now here. And again, I would probably want to go through, make any edits I want to, right? Like I don't need this here at the top. I don't need this last little blurb where it's, kind of asking us what else it could do here for us. But I could, after making some edits, have this ready to go and post it now in the Teams chat, right? Quick, easy summary for those who wouldn't be able to attend. Quick breakdown, next steps, what the timelines are, all of that good stuff. Now, this is where Copilot really starts to shine when you need to create structured content quickly, especially when you know what you need, but you don't want to start from a blank page, like we talked about earlier. Copilot is helpful for common workplace documents, things like project updates, overviews, FAQs, where structure and clarity matter. And you can ask Copilot to create a first draft with specific sections, like an overview, progress, risks, or next steps. That's going to save time organizing your thoughts, ensuring that nothing important is missed. And if you already have content like a policy or a guidance document, you can ask Copilot to reframe it into plain language, such as an FAQ, or making it easier for others to understand. And it can help with adding components to your existing documents, like an introduction at the top that explains the purpose, the scope, or the intended audience. Key things to remember is Copilot gives you a starting point. It's not going to give you the final product. You still review, edit, and tailor the content to make sure it's accurate and appropriate. Just a note, in GCC High, Copilot can generate a structured first document, or excuse me, a structured first draft for documentation such as acquisition briefs or internal reports. However, generated content should always be reviewed again to ensure alignment with DFARS formatting or program-specific documentation standards. Also, report writing. Maybe you need to pull some insights quickly. Copilot can extract just the key insights and then organize them into report-ready tables or summaries. Copilot is well suited for summarizing longer reports, such as key lessons learned, outcomes, or recommendations without rereading the entire document. And you can ask Copilot to extract things like key metrics, results, or put them into simple report-ready tables, which is helpful for things like briefings, status updates, um, things, a summary for leadership, perhaps. It can also structure information, like a table of milestones, right? Descriptions, target completion dates, which makes the progress easier to communicate. And these prompts are going to work best when you're trying to turn raw data and information and turn it into content that's more digestible, like a summary or a snapshot, or supporting material for a presentation. Just as a best practice, avoid including any classified content directly in prompts. Copilot is intended to support drafting of unclassified or appropriately handled CUI documentation within tenant-approved workflows. So as a reporting assistant, what might this look like? Well, let's head back over to all right, we're going to start with an Excel document this time. And we'll go ahead and start a new chat. And I'm going to use the plus sign this time to attach something, and upload a file here. Back to my demo files here. One moment here. I need to extract these items. I'm going to copy this one. We'll just move it back here. Okay. Now we should be able to grab this. All right. Just grab some generic financials in this Excel spreadsheet here. And I'm going to say pull key metrics from this financial document and present them in a simple table suitable for an executive briefing. So we've given it a reference, this Excel document, and I'm telling it I want it to pull those key metrics out from the document and then put those key metrics in just a simple table that I could put then into an executive briefing, right, for easy, quick consumption. So it's going to think through this a little bit. It's going to say it's organizing the approach to analyze metrics like year-over-year growth, operating margins, determining, oh, it's gone. It's using Python to write this out. I will note that if you are somebody who, can write in Python, who's a coding professional, you could use that to actually take Copilot to new places, and especially when it comes to Excel. All right, it's coding, it's executing. All right, here we go. So it's telling us what it referenced here, this Contoso financials chart from this latest available quarter. Here's our executive briefing, quarterly snapshot. Here's the table we wanted, right? Quarter, value, revenue, cost of goods sold, all of this. Executive briefing for the fiscal year, right? And then a quick executive summary. What stands out, right? Actually written out. Strong quarter-over-quarter rebound in profitability, cash discipline, year-on-year softness in Q4, FY fiscal year picture right here, ready to go. So we can see it's actually does a really good job of extracting some information, putting it in the format that we want it to, and we could easily take this and put it into a briefing for leadership. Okay. Let's grab another one. Let's do a couple more. I know we're getting a little short on time here. I'll do one more and then we'll move on to the next section. You know what? We'll do like a follow-up prompt here. Based on these findings and the attached report, from the attached report, give me some recommendations on next steps. Gonna think through it for a moment. Here. Where? Here are some actionable next step recommendations. All right. So when we have this conversation with Copilot, we're moving, we're thinking about how we communicate with it. Um, we can reiterate, we can pull additional information, we can move in a different direction based on where we were. And again, if we ever kind of going in the wrong direction, we need to take it to a new place, we can always come up here and start a new chat to help us recreate. All right, let's talk about presentations now and how Copilot can help with presentation visuals, actually. So when people first start using Copilot, you often might think of treating it like that search engine like we talked about before. But just typing a few keywords in, expecting perfect answer is not the way to go. That might be your natural instinct, but being specific, detailed, using full sentences is the way to go. If we're vague, if there's just a few words, if there's no context, it's not going to give us exactly what we want. But again, there's no wrong way to prompt uh, Copilot. It's really a learning process, right? We're learning how to communicate with this technology. We can iterate, we can try again, we can start over with a new chat if we need to at any time as well. And when we think about that, um, if we want to get help with like a PowerPoint presentation, right? Prompting with all the needed details are going to be very important. So what I could do is go back to our chat. We're going to start a new chat. And I can, again, let's say I want to take that document. Actually, I'm going to go back to where we were. We won't have to start a new chat because we're going to reference the same one. I can say, or say, generate a PowerPoint presentation based on the attached document. It's a reference document at this point. I don't want to get confused. I'm not attaching a new document based on the reference document and analysis thus far. This will be intended for leadership of the program. Yes, I did have a little typo there, but again, it'll be forgiving. It'll probably still figure out that I meant presentation, not presentatin. So while it's working on that, we'll talk a little bit more about effective prompting. Some ways to start, again, you have the prompt gallery and some options for starting prompting. If you want to say, ask me 3 questions, you can have it answer. It'll ask them one by one. You can say, ask me 3 questions one by one to help you draft an email or help me, with this prompt. Here's what I'm trying to do. Ask me 3 questions about it. And you can either answer those or just build them into a new prompt. Maybe you say, I'm getting ready to kick off a new project with blank. Give me a brief description of this company, links to their website, LinkedIn, things like that. Create a stacked bar chart showing the breakdown by topic for the results from a specific survey, right? Referencing items, giving it that clear guidance is going to be the way to go. The more detailed, the better, again, and you want to think in terms of like giving it a persona, right? Who is it going to be speaking as? What is the audience? What is your task? If you put those things in, give it all the information, you're going to get a better output. But again, no wrong way to really prompt. All right, let's go back and see if what it has generated thus far. Oh, it's still analyzing. This may take a moment. But I'll just double check for questions because we're going to wrap up here in a moment. I think I've answered all the questions that came into the chat. Were there any additional questions that anybody had? You can feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to ask them out loud or type them into the chat. I also will add in a brief survey for you if you wouldn't mind responding. We would appreciate that. And we're gonna create a new poll here real quick, and I'll put that into the chat. Okay, and then we'll come back and hopefully we'll see that it actually okay. All right, we'll enter a little poll in there. If you don't mind giving some feedback, we would appreciate that while that gets started. Somebody asked, ChatGPT has the ability to create PowerPoint slides. Can Copilot do this? Yes, Copilot can do that. It should show us here in a moment. Oh, it's analyzing. We're seeing some code again. Still thinking through. It should give us a PowerPoint document here, or a PowerPoint presentation that we can then click open and then utilize. No worries. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate you being here. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And there is that poll active if you want to respond. We'd love to hear your feedback as far as if this met your expectations. 1 to 5, 1 being not at all, 5 totally satisfied. Just respond with those stars there. So let's see. It's given us the code. It's still analyzing. Okay. Give me this in a ready to use PowerPoint presentation. Oh, it's working on the spot. So it's being a little slow for us right now, which can happen. We'll come back to. I know we're almost at the top of the hour, but I want to say thank you all for attending. We do really appreciate you joining. If you are looking to learn more about Copilot, you want to launch Copilot with confidence. If you want to reach out and learn more about what Planet has to offer, I'll put a couple links into the chat for you all as well. So let me grab those. I'll put those in the chat. And you can either send us an email or check out the website. And we'll put those right in there. And we'll go back. We'll see if Copilot has caught up with us. Oh, here we go. It's giving us the download link. We're so close. I don't even have to put this one in. We're going to say stop. So I would be able to grab this, open it up, and then we can see, yes, this PowerPoint presentation is now created for us. Now, I will note that this is probably not completely ready to go, but it is a foundation for which we can build upon to create that final version of the presentation. So just in time, right at the top of the hour, we can see here it has created that PowerPoint file for us. All right. So again, thank you all for attending. Hope you have a great rest of your week. I'll stick around in case there's any other questions that come in. But if you choose to leave, again, thank you for attending, and we hope to see you around again.